Is it okay to have sex before marriage? Well, the world has separated sex and marriage as if they're different things. But from God's vantage point, as our designer, He created us to enjoy sex in the context of marriage. And when we separate them, things get really painful sometimes and really confusing. Because sex is designed to take place within marriage, when we engage in sexual activity outside of the context of marriage, then we start feeling attached to the other person. We start acting married, perhaps, even when we're not. Next thing you know, there's no security in that relationship. They end up abandoning us, and there we are wondering what we should do about it. With all of these feelings on the inside, feelings of closeness and intimacy to the other person. Now, if you've had sex before marriage, or even if you're currently involved in that, if you're a child of God, you're still forgiven and cleansed and righteous and holy and blameless. Your identity doesn't come from your sexual activity. Your identity comes from Jesus Christ. But just remember that you can be forgiven and miserable. That's right. You can be righteous and holy and blameless, yet miserable. And the Bible tells us that you, as a believer, have a new heart, that you're dead to sin and alive to God. That means that sin will make you miserable every single time. It's like being addicted to Jesus, but being allergic to sin. Your system goes off with all kinds of alarms inside you when you're trying to make sin work in your life. It'll never work. Your true fulfillment is always Jesus. You've been rebuilt from the ground up to express Him in everything, and nothing else will truly satisfy. So when it comes to sex before marriage, sure, you could be engaged in it, trying to make it work, like the person next door. They lay awake nights dreaming of new ways to sin. And yet here you are looking up videos, trying to figure out, well, is this sin? Should I stop? I feel like I should. I'm not so sure about it anymore. The Holy Spirit lives in you, and He's given you wisdom and counsel. So look to Him. And it's pretty clear that at the end of the day, you being a child of God with that new nature, that new heart, that new spirit, and God's Spirit living in you, you're going to be led powerfully by Him. And the answer to life's questions become plain and obvious when we have the best counselor and comforter on the planet. So recognize the beauty of sex within marriage, and that's God's design. But outside of marriage, we look to Jesus and His counsel to guide us forward in a way that is truly healthy.